I still remember the day we got married. The smell of fresh hibiscus filled the air. The soft hum of prayers from our elders wrapped around us like an unspoken blessing. And our friends, our people, danced like the world belonged to us. My husband, Emeka, held my hand the entire night, whispering that he would always stand by me. And in that moment, as I looked into his bright, hopeful eyes, I believed him. Life in Lagos was a whirlwind. We were young, in love, and filled with dreams. We talked about everything: our careers, our faith, the number of children we would have. We spoke about them like they were already in our arms, as if God had taken a special note of our plans and would fulfill them exactly as we wished. But then years passed and nothing. At first, it was easy to dismiss. God's time is the best time. But as months turned into years, the waiting became heavier. It settled into the quiet moments, the nights Emeka and I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, wondering when it would be our turn. It was in the prayers we whispered, the hopeful glances we shared every time I felt a slight change in my body. Then one day, after nearly 2 years, the test sat in my trembling hands. Two pink lines. I could hardly breathe. Tears blurred my vision as I called out to Emeka. He ran into the room, and when he saw my face, his eyes filled with the same disbelief, the same hope. He lifted me off the ground, spinning me in circles as we laughed and cried all at once. We were finally going to be parents. Our home became a place of celebration. Family and friends came bearing gifts. The women's fellowship from church filled my kitchen with laughter and the scent of homemade moi moi. Emeka could barely sleep. He would wake up and place his ear against my belly, listening for a heartbeat he couldn't hear. When our son, Chisom, was born, our lives felt complete. His name meant God is with me. Because after all the waiting, all the prayers, he had answered. We had our son. The joy overflowed. The women sang, Nwadi, Nwadi, mother and child are well. They lifted me up like a queen, offering me bowls of pepper soup to restore my strength. He was perfect until he wasn't. He started small. He wouldn't look at us when we called his name. He didn't play like other children. He never pointed at things. He would line up his toys, but if one was out of place, he would cry until it was right again. I told myself all children develop differently. But when he turned two and the doctor finally said the words I had been running from, "Your son is on the autism spectrum," something inside me shattered. I couldn't hear the rest of the conversation. The room blurred. The only sound I could hear was my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. Emeka held my hand as the doctor spoke, the same way he had held it at our wedding. But this time, his grip was tighter, almost as if he was holding on for both of us. At first, we told no one. We needed time. But secrets don't last in our community. People noticed. And when they knew, everything changed. The invitation stopped. The calls became less frequent. The mothers of faith from church, the same ones who had prayed over my pregnancy, now avoided us. Just take him to deliverance prayers. Are you sure it's not spiritual? Auntie Nosy, who once held my baby and called him my prince, now pulled our children away when we came near. Even my mother-in-law, the woman who had danced at my naming ceremony, began to make comments. "We will keep praying. God will change this. He will make him normal." As if my son, the same child we had begged God for, was broken. I watched as my husband's shoulders grew heavier with every whisper, every side glance. I watched as our home, once filled with laughter, became silent. I watched as loneliness settled in, thick and suffocating. And yet, through the silence, through the grief, we still had Chisom. He laughed when the ceiling fan spun too fast. He clapped his hands excitedly when he saw blue lights. He loved the feeling of water running through his fingers. He was here. He was ours. And if the world chose not to see his light, we would become his world. One day, our people would understand. One day, they would realize that kindness costs nothing. But until that day, we would stand firm together, just like we promised, just like we always had.